Mashal, we give praise, esteem, and honor to the living Elohim. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, pick this up in John 5 and 39. All right, search the scriptures. For any of you think you have eternal life, and they will testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. Receive not honor from men, but I know you. That you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in Allah's name, you receive me not. But those that come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another? Not the honor that comes from Elohim only. Things that I will accuse you to Allah, there's one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Had to believe Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? Proverbs 17 and 6, Proverbs 20 and 7. That was Psalms 113, Psalms 128. And that's another one. It'll come to mind in a moment. Psalms 127. Get all that. Go to all of that. Proverbs 17 and 6. Sons are the crown of old men, and the esteem of sons are their fathers. Think on that again. Sons are the crown of old men, and the esteem of sons are their fathers. Proverbs 20 and 7. The just man walking in his integrity, and his sons are blessed after him. So we started this on Wednesday. Started some of this stuff the other day, last week. And let's look at that. But let's look at this first aspect, right, of Proverbs 20 and 7. A just man walking in his integrity. Of course, you know it's Sadak. So when we look at that Sadak, we're going to take time and look at it again, right? Sod, Dalit, God, and Kuf. So we see what? The way of light is this, I don't even want to look at it though. Or one who walks in the way of light will show forth their worship by sacrifice. So, and of course, and this is what makes one righteous. And of course, we talked about this last week in regards to Abraham being willing to offer up Isaac because he knew that Noah would raise Isaac from the dead based off the promise that he made him. Let's take a look at Romans 12 and 1 on general principles. And let's, y'all got to bear with me because I got a bad ear. So if you see me pausing or this, that, and the third, is because I might not be able to hear my own self. But Romans 12 and 1. I beseech you, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, Kadash, and acceptable unto Elohim, which is your reasonable service. So, of course, when we look at living, let's look at a Greek equivalent, the Hebrew equivalent for living of what they used here. Let's say to make yourself a living sacrifice. And it is what I know that it would be. It's Kai, right? Kai and Yah. You're separated by your worship, separated by the Son. You're separated by your word. But what is your word? To believe on him whom he have sent, which of course is going to separate you because of your worship, your reverence or your honor for Elohim. See, at the end of the day, I heard a brother was talking about this in the video I listened to with our brother Judah, man, and he was talking about this here, which is true story. And the time frame, and we done discussed this loosely a time or two. You have more and more people, especially women, moving into witchcraft, things of that nature. More and more trying to justify it. You know what I'm saying? By whatever means that they choose to justify it. The sad part is is that in order to justify it, individuals have to use the word of Elohim out of context or in whatever understanding that they want to use it in regards to the justification. You know what I'm saying? We didn't talk about this in the past, that people look like the miracles that Moses pulled off or Yahushua pulled off by some manner of magic. It wasn't magic. It was strictly, it was Elohim doing the work. Let's look and see how we know that. John chapter 5. From John 5 to John 14. John chapter 5 and verse 17. John 5 and 17. Yahushua answered them, my Abba work here too, and I work. Therefore the Yahudim sought the more to kill him, because not only had he broken Shabbat, but he had also, but said also that Elohim was his Abba, making himself equal with Elohim. Then answered Yahushua and said unto them, truly, truly, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he see Abba do. What things soever he do, the Son also do likewise. For Abba loved the Son and show him all things that himself do, and he will show him greater works than these, that you may marvel. For as Abba raise up the dead and make alive them, even so the Son make alive whom he will. So the first thing when you sit back and you look at it is he says that the Son doesn't do anything. It's what he does, what he sees the Father does, because it's the Father who is doing the work. So there's no see the aspect of what individuals with the thought process move out of the way. Is that these men had a Muna, a Ma, and a Moth, and a living Elohim. This is what Yahushua had. This is what Moses had. This is the art that they're forgetting. There's no power to tap in. You can't tap into any strength and power without trusting the living Elohim first. This is what made Yahushua a just man. Remember, we're looking at the way, Zadok, the way, the Dalet. You know what I'm saying? The Yod and the Kuf. So you can see that the light is the way, and sacrifice is the worship, or sacrifice is the work. And you're going to have to make yourself a living sacrifice. This is your reasonable service. And these are the things that we don't want to discuss. Because he said a just man walks in his completeness. Now we know a just man falls 7 times and rise again. So someone who has righteous conduct according to the standard of Elohim. See, this is the problem. It's that nobody wants to walk in the standard of Elohim. You know what I'm saying? Was listen to that Clubhouse thing with Kevin Samuels was on it. It was hilarious. Not what he was talking about, but the conduct of one particular woman. That woman, in a nutshell, is the conduct of all those who hate Elohim. Because you want to tell Elohim how to be Elohim. You want to tell Elohim how to save. You want to tell Elohim how to govern. You want to tell Elohim how he would be just by doing what you want him to do. And when Elohim doesn't go for it and rebukes and refutes whatever you're talking about, then you have a hatred for him. You have a hatred for him. And what doesn't make it any better is a bunch of clowns, simpletons, fools, miscreants. You know what I'm talking about? Running around the atmosphere and the landscape of the earth, telling lies and speaking stupidity. It don't make it no easier for people to say, you know what, I want to believe on this word. Because Yahuwah is Yahuwah, he will not change. Let's just go ahead and look at it for general principle before we read John chapter 14, Malachi chapter 3. Everybody like to read Malachi chapter 3 in regards to, oh, see, his laws ain't went nowhere. See, we ain't reading that for that. We reading that because Yahuwah is a man, and men are not going to change. Men are going to be men. Elohim is not going to be who you want him to be in order to make you comfortable with serving him, because that is the mind frame of many a woman on the earth, which is reflective of the mind frame of many a man on the earth when it comes to serving Yahuwah. You want him to change who he is in order to satisfy you, and he will not. Let's read it then. For I am Yahuwah, I change not. Therefore, you sons of Jacob are not consumed. Change is Shana. That is to change or to alter or to disguise himself. San, Noon, and Hey. So you think you're gonna sit back and that the seed of life, which is Yahushua, was consumed, and you think that Elohim is going to be changed and altered in the midst of that consumption? You are a fool. Why was he consumed? Let's look and see. Hebrews chapter 9. We still got John 14. All this is establishing how the just man walks in his integrity for his sons to be blessed after him. See, these niggas don't want to be blessed by the will of Elohim because Elohim is never enough. You don't really want what he wants. Let's just put it simply. You want to be God. At the end of the day, I seen a video, stupid nigga talking about that Hebrew men in the word are having women being modest according to the standards of their oppressor. That young nigga need to be slapped dead in his face. Dead in his face. I'm talking about dead in his face. Because niggas out here simping. And the same thing that Kevin Samuels told every man on that video, I'll tell you the same. Y'all need to stop lying to these women, man. I don't care who they are. Your mammies, your aunties, cousins, sisters, wives, and all of them. Stop lying to them and telling the truth. And stop worrying about if they're going to be upset or not. They will get over it. And if they walk away from you because you told them the truth, then so be it. But stop letting them walk around in a delusion in their own mind. That ain't no different than somebody who preaching the word. Stop lying to these people and telling them the truth. You're not helping somebody by not telling them the truth. If you need to be told the truth, you need to be told the truth. If you're lazy, then you're lazy. If you're nasty, then you're nasty. If your expectations of reality are not in congruence with reality, then that needs to be said. See, me and mine were talking about this the other day. I say, I've always done this my whole life. Tell a woman the truth because I don't care about having sex with you. I really just don't genuinely care. You know what I'm saying? So because I don't have that care of having sex with you, I will tell you the truth. And I don't care if your feelings get upset because your vagina is not that special. I know every woman feels like every man can be wooed and controlled and dominated with vagina, but that's just not the case. There's greater things in the world than vagina. I'm here to tell you. And if vagina is in your top 3 things in life, you have a problem, sir. You're dominated by your loins. And you can't say you're a man and dominated by your loins. I don't care if you're married or not. I don't care if you're married or not. Sex should not be in your top 3 as a man. Ain't nowhere in the world. That means you're not going to be focused on your purpose or Elohim. If that's in your top 3, that should not be in your top 3. That's a temporary sensation. That's not lasting and enduring. And that's why a lot of women behave the way that they behave. Because either their vagina is the end all be all. And that all men will literally die if they don't get it. That's not the case. You got to tell them the truth. And you can't care if they get mad. Because you're not helping them. You're not helping them. Because we know women will lie to each other, just like sinners will lie to each other. Say, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. No, you're not. Not in the eyesight of Elohim. You're not. Not if you're doing A, B, C, D. And then you got people who deal with the word who will try to change it and meld it to fit that standard that they wanted to fit. Hebrews 9, though. Let the Lord be praised and esteemed through his son. 9 and 15, if you would. Matter of fact, shoot, make it 14. And for this cause, how much more shall the blood of Mashiach, who through the eternal Ruach offered himself without spot to Elohim, this is Hebrews 9 and 14, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim. For this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the First Testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead, otherwise it is of no strength at all while the testator live. It's of no strength at all. So somebody has, that's what a dollar come in with that sadat. Somebody got to be sacrificed. Somebody has to be nailed. Somebody has to be hung to the door. It just has to happen. And we have to hang ourselves to the door. Remember what we talked about previously, when Paul said, hey, man, if I seek to please men, I'm not the servant of Mashiach. See, your number one duty is to please your Abba, not men or women. That's not your number one duty as a man. How can you lead? See, this is what got Saul in trouble because he was worried about what the people were going to say and what the people were going to think. You cannot care. That doesn't mean that you have to be a douchebag about it, but you definitely have to be firm and resolute. And hey, man, this is what it is. I'm not changing that for you. I'm not bending that for you. Now, of course, every man on here knows, like just to listen. See, now when you're dealing with the word, right? Men talk to the prophets, the pastors, the evangelists, the teachers, the apostles, all the righteous men in this word. And in some instances, very disrespectful. Now, that was mentioned in that video, which is the truth. Every man on here can bear witness to it. Men know that they can't get in a conversation with another man and talk to him any kind of way because a fight might come with that. Fight might come. You can't go to calling no man all out his name, getting all rough and tough and buff, because a nigga might punch you in your mouth. Now, see, a lot of women feel like, okay, a man can't hit me, so I will talk to him any kind of way. A lot of individuals who know the word, who are really wicked on the inside, they know that for the most part, the righteous are not going to fight them when the righteous are telling them about themselves. And they will seek to injure you and do you harm. You have to sit back and understand that because they feel like there's no threat to their physical person. See, those who trust in Elohim are looking that Elohim will render judgment upon their head for them overstepping their bounds for touching the righteous. Because that's why you see a lot of dudes who deal with the world. We ain't no Christians, we ain't no punks. We ain't gonna let you do that. That's why dudes do that. And I understand that because they look at it, that's some old weak punk, effeminate junk. I ain't finna let nobody run up on me. But if that's the case, then we wouldn't have had a redemption for our sins if the Lord chose that route. Because remember what he told him. If my kingdom was of this world, my servants will fight. Now, of course, we're not talking about letting someone injure your family. We're talking about if you are conveying the words of the living Elohim. You have to know the difference. If you're not conveying the words of the living Elohim, hey man, be peaceable with all men as much as possible. You should have enough skill and wherewithal to be able to diffuse situations. And if you see that you can't diffuse it, to remove yourself from that situation, to not allow anything to escalate to the point of violence. To sit there in a situation, allow it to escalate to a point of violence when you know you could have got up out of there or de-escalated it is the sign of immaturity and pure and utter stupidity. For an individual who professes to be a son or daughter of the living Elohim. That makes absolutely no sense. Because he said, blessed are the peacemakers. So you're supposed to be able to diffuse and remove. Now, some situations and circumstances, you may not be able to diffuse and refuse. You might have to punch a nigga in his face. I'm not advocating for you to punch a nigga in his face. But if you've exhausted all avenues at your disposal and there was no other option than to punch somebody in their face, I understand. But you should try to remove yourself. You already know what the text tells you. A soft answer, turn away wrath. So you're supposed to have enough skill and wherewithal to put someone at ease so that violence does not come about. Because we too old to be around here talking about some violence. Because boy, niggas ain't out here fighting. And if you ain't ready to get shot or to shoot, you need to chill out. You need to chill out. And it's only going to be a grace of Allah if you don't go to jail. If you shoot somebody. So you can't let your pride get in the way that you got to prove to somebody you tough. That's insecurity on your own part that you feel the need to do that. That's completely unnecessary. Now that I say that, I want to thank the Lord. You come over here to John 14. I had an opportunity to do a wedding today. And it was funny to me, not funny in a humorous aspect, but ironic, that I always see women post about men don't be emotional and show love to each other. And like I mentioned to y'all a couple weeks ago, I just don't see. I seen a grown man shed tears for a man he's seen as a father figure. And that same man shed tears right back. And the man said, I learned masculinity from you. You know, shalom, man. Gave that man a hug, told him he loved him. I'm like, these are normal things. I was around dudes who was running the street. I seen dudes who were like that with their daddies who was in the street, whether their daddies were effective all the way around, effective fathers or not. But I always find it funny, the narrative, and it's always usually women who push this narrative. That men don't show emotion. No, they just don't show emotion how you want them to, or when you want them to. Because I just can't say that that's a foreign concept for me. You know what I'm saying? I've seen dudes do it in jail, criminals. When certain situations and circumstance arose, criminals. Right? That's not a foreign thing for me to see two men hug each other, not the tap and the shoulder. I'm talking about a literal hug. You know what I'm saying? I ain't look at these men and be like, oh, this nigga here soft. This man, see this man, you like my daddy. My daddy didn't do this, that, and the third, but I got this from you. I appreciate you for that. Man, say you carry the family on your back. What's a lot of dudes out here that feel that way about their people, man? And tell them that. It's a lot of dudes just don't be sitting around here. I ain't telling that nigga I love you. And again, that goes back for me to get to impress the concept and the principle that Yahushua left with us, that to love one another, that the world may know that you my disciples. If you so concerned by looking weak in the eyes of another man, you might be a homosexual. You know what I'm talking about? If you feel like, I don't want a nigga to see I got love for my brother, for my daddy, for my uncles, for my granddaddy, because you worry about what another nigga gonna say, you might be gay. Right? There's no way around that. You might be homosexual. If you are concerned what another gonna say to you by showing love to men who mean something to you, when your Elohim instructed you to do so. He said this is the hallmark that an individual gonna know. That y'all are my students, that I taught you this. This will set you apart from everybody else. And again, this is a just man walking his completeness, which we're going to see. That's why I'm mentioning that. Because if we look and see Yahushua manifested love to his people, and not just his people as a whole, but the direct individuals he dealt with, then what reason do we have to not do the same? It doesn't make any sense. How you could kick it with a dude and don't love him? See, this is how where it come in at. You don't love him because you don't love yourself. Which in reality, you can't love Elohim because you don't love yourself, because you don't love the reflection in the mirror. You're made in the image of Elohim, so therefore you hate Elohim because you hate yourself. So it's going to be quite impossible for you to love someone who looks like you, because that is a reinforcement of the hatred and the disgust and the despising that you have for your own self. So that means that you would need to correct that and fix that within your own self. This is why I've always told y'all, hey, man, you could get some spiritual counseling. You could go get you a therapist, but you need to go handle that, though, because that's not normal. That is not normal. And it's definitely not conducive to the love of Elohim. It's not normal. Unfortunately, a lot of processes and thought processes and activities and ideas are created in an abnormal society that has been accepted as the cultural norm, and that just has to cease and desist. I see people all the time, oh man, hey, brothers ain't got no brotherhood out here. No, it's not that brothers ain't got no brotherhood. You hanging with whole niggas. Stop kicking it with whole niggas. Stop kicking it with niggas just because they in the word. If he a buster, he a buster. Stop fooling with him. It's not that hard. You fool with low quality individuals and are shocked when low quality outcomes are brought to pass. So then you would have to look at yourself and say, why do I consistently and constantly surround myself with low quality individuals? Because that's you choosing to deal with these people. You're choosing to hang with these people. At this point, it's not them people, because you hang with people who are reflective of your ideas, your beliefs, your thought processes, and how you feel about yourself. Sloan. That's what you do. You hang around people who think and act like you do, who see the world like you do. That's why I've always tripped to them. I ain't got no friends. Nigga, that ain't nothing to be proud of, nigga. That you ain't got no friends. That means you lack social skills. That means you lack the ability to communicate. That means you have the ability to interact with human beings in a peaceable and cordial fashion. That means you're accustomed to picking low-grade people to befriend, and now want to throw the whole world into that bag. No, that's you. You keep hanging with them people. That ain't no different than a man or a woman who keep picking trash partners. At that point, it's not the partners, it's you. That's how do we know this? Because we know everything we did in the world. It wasn't your daddy's fault. It wasn't your mama's fault. It wasn't your friend's fault. It was your fault. Did some of our people fail us in regards to not teaching certain things that would be necessary for our cultivation, elevation? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, you're responsible for your decisions and choices, and that rests with you. Yes, it can be definitely beneficial to be given proper tools to be able to do things in a proper fashion. But nevertheless, you have to be responsible for what you do and who you choose to surround yourself with. As simple as that. As simple as that. Because the book tell you, hold on. Since I mentioned that, come over here to the book of Proverbs, man. Come over here to the book of Proverbs. I'm trying to remember the verse. Give me a sec. There you go. Come over here to Proverbs 18:24. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. I'm going to read John 14 eventually, if the Lord permit. I'm going to do it. No, I don't want that. Proverbs 18:24, right? A man that have friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend that stick closer than a brother. Now, you know that's John, the Apostle John, right? That second half, and we're going to deal with it because I'm feeling good, as you should. Let's look at friendly. It's ra'ah, a word that most of you should be familiar with. And it is Rosh and double IEs. You have to be bad and evil, to do injury or hurt, to break or shatter, or to be broken in asunder. Show yourself friendly, behave yourself properly, things of that nature. If a man to have friends must show himself friendly. So of course, you know, you got Ra'ah for friend. That's Rosh and Ayin. Of course, you add that on there. So when you get it, when you look at it right, you get when you are a friend. See, Paul, John 15. I'll swing over here. Yeah, I'll work John 14 in there eventually. But John 15, I don't have that page in its entirety. I wonder which one of my muffins got hold to it. I put my money on Abigail, but it could have been Muffin Man. Who knows? Not that they did it intentionally. They just turned pages with aggression. John 15:8. Herein is my Abba esteemed, that you bear much fruit. See, that's going to go back to the second part of Proverbs 17. So shall you be my disciples. As the Abba have loved me, so have I loved you. Continue in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even if I kept my Abba's commandments and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that your joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love have no man than this, that a man lay his life down for his friends. Now it's telling you, right, that a man that have friends must show himself friendly. Now you know that Yahusha is known of the highest. You know this. How do we know this? Let's take a look at something in the Epistle of James in regards to Abraham, and let that tell the tale. Oh, praise be to Allah. Let's take a look at the Epistle of James. Let's take a look at verse 19 of chapter 2. Praise, thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. Epistle of James, chapter 2, verse 19. Say, you believe there's one Elohim? You do well. The devils also believe and tremble, as we read last week. But will you know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our Abba justified by works when he offered Isaac his son upon the altar? We discussed that last week, right? See you how faith wrought with his works, and by his works faith made perfect. So what's the point? In Isaac, your seed will be called. He trusted in us. See, people take this verse and they just throw it out there. But he's talking about a man who did works according to a promise that Elohim made him. And when he brought that promise to pass, he asked this man to offer up that son. And Abraham had belief in Elohim that Elohim would raise him from the dead if he offered him, because he said, in Isaac shall your seed be called. Not because you want to start a business and you need to do the work. That's not faith without works is dead. That's just you being simple, trying to take the word to fit it into your ideology. That is not what this is talking about. This is talking about someone holding fast that no matter what, Elohim is going to hold fast to his promise, and I will work the works of Elohim in order to receive it. This is how a just man walks in his integrity, in his completeness, in his wholeness with Elohim, in complete lockstep with what Elohim promised him. It said Elohim didn't promise you no business. He didn't promise you that. He didn't promise you no community program. He didn't promise you that. So we need to stop taking things and merging them with what we want to do and what we got going on. That is to not denigrate or disrespect anyone who seeks and desires to do those things. But don't put that on that man, talking about that man sent you to do that, because that don't bring no esteem or honor to his name. That is not in concordance with his will or any righteous man who there's a testimony of them operating in. You can't read no testimony of no righteous man starting a community program. And you can't take the things in the law to say that's what that is, because that's what Elohim set up for righteous people to do righteous things. Period. That's his standard and his way. That's just how you're supposed to operate. You don't need to do no clove drive just to do no clove drive. You do it because that's the just thing to do. Nobody needs to know about it, but it is just not to anybody. It was to the saints. And that's what most brews don't want to discuss. They did that for the saints. That don't mean that you don't have to do it for people who on the street, but they did that for the saints first. Their first concern was with the set apart ones of Elohim first. We're not even concerned with nobody who's in the house of Elohim first. Why? That's the question. See, over the course of time since we've been going through this text for the last 8 calendars, and we praise Elohim in the name of Yahushua for it, we've asked a lot of questions like why. There's a lot of things that I bring to y'all, and I ask y'all these things and present you for why is it like this? Do you think about it? Do you care? Or do you just see stuff and just, which way did he go? Like there's certain things that I bring up for a reason. It's to cause you to think, why is it like this? Why do people behave this way? Why are people comfortable with a sad situation and circumstance that is not only detrimental to them, but detrimental to others? Well, we know why. Why do individuals want to grab the word and mix it and meld it to make it be what they want it to be? You have over 7 billion people in the world, allegedly, because I ain't counting. You know what I'm saying? And let's say maybe out of them 7 billion, 2 to 4 billion deal with the word. Now, out of them 2 to 4 billion people, we would have to wager with a strong wager that 99.9% of them have absolutely no idea what the word is talking about. We have to go. There's no way in the world that we're going to see and say the harvest is plentiful and the laborers are few and believe that all these people touching this book know what they're talking about. You're just lying to yourself. You're just lying to yourself. The books say that a virtuous woman prices far above rubies. Who can find her? So she's rare. Then Solomon said that he sought throughout the earth through diligent search, and he only found one, and a woman he ain't find them. So if Solomon could only find one, why do we believe that all of these dudes know the word like this? Why? What is going on in our brain that we have convinced ourselves with this? We don't even test and try. Do one thing for certain, 2 things for sure. Or you can test and try me all you like. I ain't gonna be offended. Some dudes gonna be offended. I'm not gonna be offended. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're doing what you're supposed to do. So that means nothing to me. Because you ain't got to believe that I know what I'm talking about. That's none of my concern. Let the word speak for itself if it's clear and plain that it's the will of Elohim. And let that be the judge. But we cannot sit back and tell ourselves that everybody know what they're talking about. That every brew is a righteous man. That every brew is a faithful man. The book of Proverbs tell you every man proclaim his own goodness, but a faithful man, who can find him? Who can find him? That's what the text tells. Matter of fact, what that is, I think that's in Proverbs 20. Come over here to Proverbs 20. I'm good in John 15. But I'm going to get John 13 with that John 14. But come over here to Proverbs. Make sure in the chapter. There it is, 20 and 6. I felt good. Most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but a faithful man who can find. We still holding Proverbs 18. You can hold your John 13 and 14. John 13 and probably about verse 27. John 14 and probably about verse 4. Now, of course, a faithful man who can find. Y'all should know what that's pointing to. Let me finish the rest of this James chapter 2. He says, see you, this is verse 22, see you how faith worked with his works, and by works was faith made perfect. And the scripture was fulfilled, which say, Abraham believed Elohim, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of Elohim, because he knew him. Remember what Yahuwah said about him? I know him, that he'll do justice and judgment, and lead his household in the way of Yahuwah. Abraham knew Yahuwah. That's why he could be called his friend, which is related to Yahushua, because he said, I know him. And if I was to say I know him not, I'd be a liar like unto you. Why was he his friend? Because he knew Elohim, he knew his Abba, he did those things that always pleased him. Nevertheless, where I was going after this here, it was something in my mind. It just departed. Let me get this one point real quick, man. John chapter 1, and we can walk away from Proverbs 20 and return to Proverbs 18. That every man proclaim his own goodness, but a faithful man, who can find him? We got every brew and their mammoth telling you how good they is. And it said most. So a multitude, an abundance, a great number of men are quick to call out how chesed they are, how faithful and kind and good they are. But this word said, on a moon each, who can find him? A faithful, trusting man, who can find him? Well, we know who found him. We're going to let John chapter 1 tell the tale. John 1 and 43. The day following, Yahushua would go forth into Galilee and find Philip and say unto him, follow me. Now Philip was of Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip find Nathanael and said unto him, we have found him, of whom Moses and the law and the prophets did write, Yahushua of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Nathanael said unto him, can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip said unto him, come and see. Yahushua saw Nathanael coming to him and said, behold, an Israelite, indeed, in whom is no guile. Nathanael said unto him, whence you know me? Yahushua answered and said unto him, before that Philip called you, when I saw you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. Nathanael answered and said unto him, Rabbi, you are the son of Elohim and the mallet of Yasharal. Yahushua answered and said unto him, because I said unto you, I saw you under the fig tree, believe you? You shall see greater things than these. And he said unto him, truly, truly, I say unto you, hereafter you shall see Shamahim open, and the Malachim of Elohim ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Saying we done found him. The one that the script that Moses told us about, we done found him. Because a faithful man, who's gonna find it? Somebody got to find you and determine that you're faithful, that you're trusting in Elohim. That's what he's talking about, faithful. A faithful man to Elohim. Because if you're a faithful man to Elohim, you're going to be faithful to others. If you're not faithful to Elohim, how are you going to be faithful to anyone else? It's going to be impossible. It's going to be absolutely impossible. Now, I know some of you might hear faithful in regard to a man and a woman. I was talking to you about this the other day, so let me go ahead and just let y'all know this here, right? Because like this here, right? Because I had a conversation with somebody before, me and her talked about it of the same vein. By strict definition, a man cannot commit adultery unless he sleeps with another man's wife. If he sleeps with a woman and he's married, he has committed fornication. Him just sleeping with the woman who is unmarried is not adultery. It's fornication. Because a man cannot commit adultery unless it's another man's wife. A woman, of course, if she's married, can commit adultery because she can't have another husband or entertain another man. That would make her a whore. Because I had a brother ask me that in that regard about the strict definition of that. You know what I'm talking about? And that's just what that is. This is one of the reasons why how wicked scribes and Pharisees were for not bringing that man who the woman who was caught in adultery was sleeping with. You know what I'm saying? Now, we didn't talk about it before. We don't do more than one wife because of the gospel. because of how it relates to Yahusha and Yasharal. I don't care nothing about somebody who does. That's your personal business. You're going to have to answer to Elohim about that. But I will say this. I heard a nigga say this in the video, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. If you look a woman in the face and you tell her it's only going to be her and only her, or you unjust to entertain another woman in any form and capacity, because that's what you told her that you were going to do. If you didn't tell her that, or you told her, hey, I might pick me up another chick, then hey, you're gonna have to deal with Elohim on that. I'm not gonna rubber stamp it. You know what I'm talking about? We don't roll with that, but that's your business. I'm not finna argue with you about it. I'm not finna go back and forth with you about it. That's your problem. Just know that we don't roll with it. But if you, a lot of things that a lot of brothers don't do is you're not honest and you're not straightforward. Just go ahead and tell that woman what it is, and regardless of the situation or circumstance, and either she gonna roll with it or she ain't. It's not that difficult. You're gonna roll with. One thing that you should not have to do is cajole and press and push someone to do something that you want them to do. I'm talking about a man in regards to a woman. A woman shouldn't do that anyway, because a man will find that utterly reprehensible, vile, and disgusting. That is a surefire way to not get that man to do what you want him to do by steadily harassing him about it. But as a man, you shouldn't do that with no woman, because if she had enough care, this is one of the reasons why Yahuwah is not going to keep pressing you to follow no word. That woman had enough care about you. Once you asked her to get aboard or do something, then she would have done it. It's as simple as that. Her lack of service is indicative of her lack of care, a desire for you. See, when we turn around and we look at ourselves in relation to Elohim, because we didn't want to keep his word, that was indicative of how we felt about him. See, a lot of people say, no, not me. No. If you're not wholly dedicated, and we were talking about it earlier today too, you dealing with a man and your nurturing process don't come on for something that he's doing. Because I had a young lady that I know was like, men like to be motivated. Absolutely not. As a man, if you need your woman to motivate you, you got mommy issues and problems, because you shouldn't need no motivation from no woman. You should be motivated for your own success and the fulfilling of your own purpose and the drive to do something for yourself. Not because if a woman is removed from the equation, you very well may stop and crumble. So a woman should never be your main motivation. We get that because a lot of us come up, and you got to take care of mama, and she implant that in your brain, and you feel like you're motivated to do for your mama, and you translate that over to your wife. Absolutely not. Your woman should never be your motivation for doing anything. Your children, that's a different conversation. But your woman, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That should not be your square motivation. Like I said, if that woman switches up or changes, it can remove your motivation. If the dynamic in the relationship sours or turns in any other direction that is not favorable, that could ruin your motivation. Your motivation should be squarely desired in the fulfilling of your own success and whatever you judge that and deem that to be for you. Because I can't tell another man what success is. Most of you brothers are successful, in my opinion. Your husbands and you wives, and you have not wives, but you have wives and you have sons and daughters, and you seek to raise them and uphold them in the best fashion that you know how as you grow and mature as a man. Now, that's successful unless you're just not doing your job in any shape, form, or fashion, to me. Regardless of your financial status. If you take the time each day to teach your child something that they didn't know yesterday, that's a success, in my opinion. If you take the time to guide your wife in a particular direction that's beneficial not only for the household, but for her, that's a success, in my opinion, only because we have so many families that don't have it and weren't raised with it. Now, there ain't nothing you got to turn around and pat yourself on the back on, but I can let that be known and acknowledge each one of you young men for it. You ain't got to remember, say, don't you know? You ain't got to turn around and say, look at me. Because the sister's telling me, some men need, that appreciation. I don't need appreciation for nothing. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. I don't need it, though. Because I'm going to do what I got to do regardless, whether you give it or not, whether you grateful or ungrateful. Yahuwah don't change. See, let me show you why I say that. See, come over here to Matthew chapter 5. Look what the Lord says. Everything that I'm saying is rooted in how Yahuwah operates. Just let that be known. It's not rooted in no personal opinion or feeling of myself. It's just I see how Elohim operates. We're supposed to take on his mind. So I'm going to see things through his vantage point and through his eyes and not my own. My personal feelings and emotions and thoughts and anything else that's native to man is grossly irrelevant. It's irrelevant in juxtaposition to him. That's when you've gotten to the point where you have crucified all your affections and lusts because you don't care about all that. How does my Abba see it? How does my redeemed King, my Lord, my Master, my Savior, how does he see it? Because we know he see it as Abba see it. So if you see it as the Lord see it, then you see it as Abba see it. That means you see it as Elohim see it. That means everybody on the same page and on one accord. And let Elohim be praised. Matthew chapter 5, though, and verse 43. And you have heard that it have been said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the sons of your Abba, which is in Shamahim, for he make his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and send rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be you therefore perfect, even as your Abba, which is in Shamahim, is perfect. And again, this is a just man walking in his integrity, because Yahushua not only did that, but he's instructing us to do it. But look at what he said. Elohim is Elohim, whether you're grateful or ungrateful, whether you give thanks or whether you don't. He's still going about to the perfection and manifestation of his will. As a man, you have to operate in the same way. Whether your wife is grateful or not should have no bearing on what you got going on. Remember, Elohim do things for his esteem. Now, of course, you don't want to get caught up in pride and be like you doing things for your esteem, because you're doing things for the esteem of your Abba and Shamahim. So whether she with it or not has no bearing to me, because it's going to get done with or without you. You have to have that mentality that if this person is ungrateful, disrespectful, uncaring, and unmotivated to contribute to the will and vision of this household, that does not mean that it's going to stop. So what did Paul tell you? What if some did not believe? Does that make the faith of Elohim of none effect? Elohim forbid. Absolutely not. That's the attitude that you have to take. If we say that we his sons, we're supposed to have his mind. Ain't that what the word tells us to have? And again, some people look at that's the denigration of a woman. It's absolutely not. Truth be told, if she's any type of a woman and you operate that way, that's going to cause her to respect you, have more of a desire to submit to you and follow you, because she knows that she's dealing with a man. Because they may not get in public and tell you this, but in private, they will tell you that they find that highly attractive. Or if you press them on that, they will tell you that. They will tell you that. Absolutely not. I want this man to put what he got going on before me. She doesn't want to be number one. She just tells you that out of the vanity of her own mind. She doesn't really want you to do it. You're supposed to be a man. When you put your family or your woman first, what you're doing is you're putting the things that they need before your own desire. I'm going to make sure that they're straight before I do something for myself. This is the attribute that Yahushua taught us. Remember, when we're dealing with Aleph Man, altruistic or self-sacrificing, because what I'm doing is for the benefit of those under my steam. See, a leader cannot be selfish, which Yahushua taught us that as well. Again, all of this is still talking about a just man walking in his integrity, because he said he did not come to be served, but to serve. Of course, you know, a woman was made to be a helpmeet to a man. Most women are miserable for one of two reasons: because they're not married, so therefore they're not operating in what Yahuwah created them to be, which is a wife and a mother and a helpmeet to a man, or they don't want to be a wife and a mother and a helpmeet to a man, and it makes them utterly miserable because they would rather be out here sloring. You know what I'm talking about? And that's it. It's either or. But for the majority of women in the earth, they're upset because they're not doing what they were created to do. And they're doing things in resistance of the nature that Elohim implanted in you from the beginning by purchasing propaganda of a God-forsaken country. Where was I going? John 13. And 27, I believe. I'll make it 31. I don't need 27. Make it 31. Y'all already know that. Text already tell you that. A strong woman who fear Yahuwah is a woman to be praised and honored and esteemed. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to see. Unfortunately, there's very few women that have an unshakable, unwavering faith in Elohim. That's a precious jewel. As the word tell you, that's a precious jewel. That's rarely seen. All these women ain't got no faith like that because all these men ain't got no faith like that. So you're not going to convince me that all these people got it when the word says everyone won't. At some point, we just have to. Doesn't mean you walk around, you don't believe, you don't do no cornball junk like that, but we can't be that simple. To think that everybody who's dealing with this word believes it because everybody doesn't. The Lord knew that. He said he knew those who believed and those who believed not. He already knew. Nevertheless, John 13 and 31. Therefore, when he is gone out, Yahushua said, now is the Son of Man esteemed, and Elohim is esteemed in him. If Elohim be esteemed in him, Elohim shall also esteem him in himself, and shall straightway esteem him. Little sons, yet a little while I'm with you, you shall seek me. And as I said unto the Yahudim, where I go, you cannot come. Now I say to you, a new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. But by this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you have love one to another. Now, back up a little bit in John 13. We're going to go back to Proverbs 18:24 in just a moment. Come on over here, because I got to do it, because he said it here, so I have to do it. John 13 and 6. We'll make it 13 and 4. He rose from supper and laid aside his garments and took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then come he to Simon Peter. Peter said unto him, Lord, do you wash my feet? Yahushua answered and said unto him, what I do you know not now, but you shall know hereafter. Peter said unto him, you shall never wash my feet. Yahushua answered him, if I wash you not, you have no part with me. Simon Peter said unto him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Yahushua said unto him, he that is washed need not to save wash his feet, but is clean every bit, and you are clean, but not all. For he knew who would betray him. Therefore, he said, you are not all clean. See, this is the thing you have to sit back and look at what he was doing. And going through and washing all these people's feet. He was manifesting not only his ability to love and serve those who he were greater than, but to sit back and show just because somebody is sitting there hearing the word with you, don't mean they heart clean. Because Judas' feet got washed just like the rest of them. He said, all y'all not clean though. See, we just think that some people, oh, this nigga gay, he put on a crown, a robe, and washed men's feet. Missed the whole point why he was doing it. It was a twofold thing. It was to show just because you sitting here hearing the word don't mean you're clean. Remember what we were talking about on Wednesday in Ezekiel 33 and 30? They sit here and hear your word, but their heart go after their covenants. So they hear it and they won't do it. And that's what Judas did. He sat there with him. He came around there with him. And he heard his words, but he wasn't going to do them because he was a thief. And he coveted silver. And he betrayed his brother for some silver. Because, yeah, he was washed, but he wasn't clean. Because he wasn't clean in the heart. That's why I say you clean from the word that I've spoken unto you. But everybody can sit back and hear that word and still not be clean. Verse 11. For he knew who should betray him. Therefore he said, you are not all clean. John 13:11, be specific. So after he had washed their feet and taken his garments and was set down again, he said unto them, know you what I have done to you? You call me master and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and master, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I've given you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Truly, truly, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord, neither is he that sent greater than he that sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. See, back to Proverbs 18 and 24. This is why a man that have friends shows himself friendly. Because remember, he said, I call you not servants, but friends. Now listen to this here, right? When you look at friend in this verse, when it said, and there is a friend, it is not right out there. It is a hive. It's love. He says there's a love that sticks closer than a brother. There is a love that sticks closer than a brother. When we look at that, clinging and adhering to, cleave, joining, sticking closer, you got Davak, Dalit, Bat, and Kuv. So guess what? Do you see the sacrifice of the last Adam, or the hanging of the last Adam? Or maybe you see the light through the door of the house. because something that sticks close. But more than anything, you see the hanging of the last act. See, let me show you why I say that. Let's come over here to Corinthians 6, if you would. 1 Corinthians 6, if you would. After 1 Corinthians 6, then we'll take a trip to John 15 again. We still need John 14 and 4. Yahuwah willing, we'll be there soon enough. 1 Corinthians 6 and 15. Know you not that your bodies are members of Mashiach? Shall I then take the members of Mashiach and make them the members of a harlot? Elohim forbid. What? Know you not that he which is joined to a harlot is one body? For two, say he shall be one flesh. But he that is joined unto the Lord is one ruach. So again, we're looking at clean. There's a love. Listen now, there is a love that clings closer than a brother. There is a love that causes you to be closer than a brother. Now remember, Yahushua said, greater love have no man than this, that a man lay a life down for his friends. And he told us that the same love that he showed unto us, that we ought to show one to another, that people may know that we are his disciples. So the love of self-sacrificing is a fulfilling of Proverbs 18 and 24 by Yahushua, because he operated that. It takes us back to Romans chapter 12 when he said that offer yourself as a living sacrifice. This is your reasonable service. See, and all of these things can be accomplished. You don't have to go live on the homestead. You don't have to have you don't have to do any of that. That stuff just has to be, it has to already be in your heart. If it's not in your heart, no matter the location, you're not going to have a level of provocation to be able to operate in that vocation, to have that type of love manifested to those around you. Because that's something that's either in you or it's not. Situation and if situation and circumstance dictates your love, you're a mercenary. You're a business person. Amen. Amen. So when you look at it, a man must show himself friendly. And we could even look at it that a man that have friends, and of course you got Rod, and that's to be displeasing, or to be hurt, or to be breaking, or to be shattered. There's a man who has friends, or there's a man that is shattered, because you could look at it in that regard. A man that have friends is shattered. And it tells you that there is a love that sticks closer than a brother. John 15. 15 and 3. Maybe 15 and 1. Who knows? And again, we don't have that love one to another because you didn't grow up with it. That's why I mentioned that about the brother who, at his wedding, when he was referring to his uncle. You know what I'm saying? That's a beautiful thing. That this man sit back and he look at this man who had a role in his upbringing. He wasn't crying out of any weakness. He was crying because he was sitting back looking at the joy from the lessons that this man gave him that are all coming to pass on this day as he takes hold of his wife. Telling this man, I learned how to be a man from you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be standing here right now. I just want you, because he drew pictures for everybody of animals, of what those people represented to him. And he drew this man as a horse. And when he seen the horse, his uncle was confused. And he said, horses carry burdens. So once he said horses carry burdens, I'm already knowing he's saying this man is carrying the pain and the reproach and making sacrifices for everybody in his household. That means he's looked at him and said, this is a man, this is what a man is supposed to do. Carry weight on his shoulders, bear the load to make it an easier travel for those who he carries. The rider of a horse doesn't have to carry that burden. The horse is carrying the burden. The rider is there alone for the ride. He has no problems. That's when you turn around and you see the text, bear one another's burdens. Fulfill the law of Mashiach. Let's take a look at it before I read John 15. Come over here to Galatians 6. You've seen that with Jonathan and David. Jonathan and David is an example of one bearing somebody's burdens. Jonathan bared David's burdens. Galatians 6:1. Brethren, if a man be overtaken in the fall, you which are spiritual, restore such a one in the ruach of meekness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. But bear you one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Hamashiach. And what does that take? You seen that when he was washing their feet. Very, very simple concept. But again, there's a love that stick closer than a brother. So they say he stick closer than your eye. So that means there's a love that is closer than somebody who's flesh and blood, or you consider to be a brother. And that's the love of Elohim. Because Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. See, like I say, man, if you're not looking at a text from what the text is intended to be looked at, which is the bearing, the witness, and testimony of the only begotten Son of Elohim, Yahushua HaMashiach, let Abba and Shamahim be esteemed and praised, sending forth his Son to be the propitiation for our sins, and that we might receive the gift of life through the Ruach HaKadosh, you're not going to understand the text. If you want to look at it from a historical standpoint, that's your business, but you're more than likely going to find yourself in hell. You want to look at it from the aspect of we the people of the book, that's fine, but more than likely, you're going to find yourself in hell. You want to look at it from the aspect of we got to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, that's fine, but more than likely, you're going to find yourself in hell. And why are you going to find yourself in hell from all those three things? Because none of those three things are inherently wrong, if you would. But you're going to miss the whole point. Because he say those who without understanding are worthy of death, which means you don't have the insight into the testimony, will, plan, and vision of the living Elohim. Therefore, you couldn't have put your hand to the plow to receive the reward for it. And therefore, he's going to have to look you in your face and say, depart from me, you work of iniquity. I never knew you. Because you didn't know him. And that's the part that flies over people's head. Like, again, none of the things that I mentioned are inherently wrong. There's nothing wrong with them at all. Is the Bible an historical word? Yes, it is. Are we the people of the book? Yes, we are. Should we keep the law, statutes, and commandments of Elohim? Absolutely. Why wouldn't you? There's no reason not to. But none of those things will get you access to eternal life and the tree of life. Not one of them. Not one of them. And I've told you many days and many times, dudes got gimmicks. Because they can't just give you the raw gospel. They can't give you the raw coke, uncut. No acetone, no re-rock, no nothing. They can't give it to you like that. So they got to cut it. They got to make it all fancy. They can't do it. You can draw more people in. Most people worry about is how many people they can draw in. How many souls have you saved? Because I don't care if you draw 1,000 people in. If you owe 4,000, meaning not one of them got the Ruach HaKadosh, you are a failure. You didn't do your job. If you got 1 out of 1,000, that's a success. One soul was saved. John chapter 15. 15:1, if you would. I am the true vine, and my Abba is the husbandman. Every branch of me that bear not fruit, he take away. Every branch that bear fruit, he purge it, that it might bring forth more fruit. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can you, except you abide in me. Now, of course, he goes later on into this chapter talking about that love, but you see him setting up the fact that there's a love that's staying closer than a brother. Because the love of Mashiach allows him to dwell in you and you to dwell in him. Your brother can't stick to you that close. That's why we read the Corinthians. He that's in the Lord is one ruach. Your brother can't stick to you that close. See, like when it mentioned with Jonathan that the love that they had surpassed the love of women. People who don't believe the word, oh, them niggas were gay. See, why dudes would say that? Because most niggas are simps. Now, when you get married, of course, your family comes before anybody. That's common sense. But whether you married or not, there are some men who absolutely, that the love for their brother is greater than the love they have for their woman. Most dudes can't sit back and understand that because most dudes, you worship women. So you couldn't, you niggas are so gay And when I say gay, I mean literally homosexual. I don't want to say homophobic because you ain't scared of being gay. You can't be scared of what you desire. It is a foreign concept in your mind that a man can have that much love for another man and it not be sexual because your daddy didn't love you. Your uncles didn't love you. Your granddaddy didn't love you. So you never had a man love you to the point where you can have that level of love and care and concern for another man. So you think somebody got to be gay when he say, yeah, boy, I love that man more than I love my woman. But that's his brother. That's a different type of bond. A woman can't never touch that bond. Now, some y'all can state your feelings. I'm not saying whether it's truthful or not. At this point, I'm not giving my opinion. You know what I'm saying? But I know a brother feel like a woman doesn't even learn what love is until she has a child. Now, I will interject my personal opinion. I don't feel like the average woman in this society knows what love is until she has a child, unless her daddy was a man and he was in the house. Because what most women perceive love to be is not love. Because I said, we know what love is. Elohim has defined that standard. I remember years ago, me and Nell looked up the definition of love in the dictionary, and it defined it as sex, first and foremost, before and then an emotional feeling. And of course, with media propaganda, movies, television show, and songs, that perpetuates into the mind of young girls to fashion in their mind what love is. Now, most of us are never taught what love is according to the word. One of the things that say love is kind, and love is not selfish, and love is not puffed up, love is not proud, it's not arrogant. Love don't think no evil. These are the things that, and when you sit back and you look at all of those things, that's sacrificial. And it's loyalty of the binding of one. Those concepts are not taught. Now, I will say this here. In this society, because those concepts are not taught, I feel like if an individual is loyal, it's just in them. Either loyal or you're not. It's just going to be intrinsic at this point because these things are not taught. Your mom and your daddy ain't teach you these things. So, see, like I say, man, like I told you, I can still, as I'm about to say it, I can see his face. When I pulled up in the Washington States to my granddaddy's house, the love in his eyes when he would open the door for me, the love and the hugs that he give, and the kisses that he would give. That junk means something to where that's why I can look at my homeboy later on in life and say, boy, I love you, boy. Indeed. We probably go read it since you put it up there. Indeed. You know what I'm saying? I can still see that. That just wasn't no look in his eyes. She bringing this boy over here. That was genuine love. That's my boy. That's my boy. I could see the joy. I'm talking about just think I could see the joy in his eyes. As a young boy, you have a man love you in that fashion. It's not going to be difficult for you to love your brother like that. You're accustomed to it. But if you're just raised with a woman and there's no man there to give you that, you're not going to be accustomed to loving a man in that fashion. We got to remember, Jonathan and David were raised by their daddies. That wasn't no foreign concept for these men, for their daddies not to be there unless he died. Let's go and get it there, man. Let's stand it up, put it around the home. 2 Samuel chapter 1, man. Let's stand it up, put it around. And again, all of this stuff, because I'm going to still get to the barren woman. I'm probably just, who are willing, probably do that on tomorrow. And it's another thing. I wanted, because it clicked in my mind earlier and I kept on rolling. But you can pick up verse 14 of 2 Samuel chapter 1 or verse 13. Because we were talking about this other day too. Let me tell y'all something, man. Stop calling your daughters princesses. Stop calling your sons princes. And stop calling your wife a queen. Because, see, I was telling this to the little muffin, not my little muffin, but the other little muffin. You know what I'm saying? You can't be a princess without your father being a king. And you can't be a king unless you are a ruler and controller of your dominion. So therefore, your child cannot be a princess or a prince if you are not a king. Therefore, your wife cannot be a queen if you are not a king. It's for a literal sense of having rule and dominion in that fashion. But let's put it this way, in a sense of the construct of the current time that we live in. If you do not have complete utter control and rule and dominion over all areas of your life, then you can't call yourself a king. Because kings answer to no one. They answer to no one. That means you can't look to someone and you answer to them and you say you a king. Kings answer to no one. Absolutely no one. That's it. When you look at Saul, of course, you look at David, of course, they answer to Yahuwah. But who does Yahuwah answer to? Why so, sir? Because you love them in that fashion? Elaborate for me, if you will, young man. And if that's the case, I understand. But some people love their people. Some people look at their friends, I love this nigga. So when a nigga do you sideways, that's not gonna bother you. If you genuinely cared and loved this person, that's not gonna bother you. Most people, it don't bother because they don't love the people who they around. You don't really love your friends. You don't really love your family. So you don't care if you fall out with them. Most people only care when they fall out with people because they can no longer receive the benefits of what they were getting from those people. Not that they're disconnected from those people or that whatever they did sincerely bothered them, because there was actual love there. Most people don't have love in their heart. They don't love themselves. So they can't love anyone else. As I've said this in the past, you cannot be selfish and say you have love in your heart. You are a liar. You cannot be you can let these people boot you up with this self-love. All it builds is just people with delusions of grandeur and an extreme inflated sense of importance that will not allow them to be the humble servants that Elohim has commanded us to be. That would be say, oh, this is not serving me. It don't benefit me. You rotten bastard Jew. You rotten bastard Jew. You rotten bad. Ain't no way around that. Because love does not seek its own. How you gonna say you have love and you selfish? That is a complete contradiction to the works of Mashiach. Nevertheless, 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 13. David said unto the young man that told him, where are you? He answered, I am the son of a stranger, an Amalekite. David said unto him, how are you not afraid to stretch forth your hand and destroy you who was anointed? David called one of the young men, and said, go near and fall upon him, and he smote him that he died. David said unto him, your blood be upon your head, for your mouth has testified against you, saying, I have slain you who was anointed. David lamented with his lamentation over Saul and over Jonathan his son, and he bade them teach the sons of Yehuda the use of the bow. Behold, it's written in the book of Jasher. The beauty of Yasharal, this son we've been in many, many years, so I'll give you a brief synopsis while we're here. The beauty of Yasharal is slain upon the high places. How are the mighty fallen? Well, y'all already know. When the Son of Man be lifted up. Well, that's good that you talk about it. And prayerfully, y'all were able to close up that breach. But that's good that y'all were able to talk about it. Because he might have not understood. Sometimes, and also too, see, sometimes, man, somebody do something, you can't be so proud to just not sit and have a conversation, because some things could just be a misunderstanding, a misperception, or any of that. Ain't no sense of walking around being mad and upset, oh, this nigga ain't do that. That's ignorant. And when I say ignorant, that's ignorant to maturity. Be a man, be a woman, go sit down and iron it out. That's what friends do. Let me tell you something, man. The man told you that offenses will come. He already told you that. So misunderstandings, miscommunications, all of those things can happen. The way to solve those things is to be a grown man or woman and sit down and have a conversation and be reconciled to your brother. See, you ain't been taught reconciliation. You don't have those type of skills. We don't have those skills because we tell each other, I cut a nigga off. Nigga, that's whole stuff. You got men talking like this. That's a woman thing. I'll cut somebody off. But no, go sit your stupid behind down somewhere. Because women don't know how to communicate themselves when they're upset. They will sit around and walk around for days mad with you and not say a word. Men are not supposed to do that. If there's a problem with you and your brother, and you know there's a problem, from a I'm talking about not a nigga sitting over here mad about something you don't know about. Because I'm not stepping to a nigga about something he mad about. Oh man, I'm not stepping you by that. If you ain't voiced it directly to me. Because we men. You got a problem with your brother, go holler at your brother, let him know. And again, that's how I grew up, man. Niggas did something ain't like nigga told you. Hey, bro, I ain't really like that, man. This is how this made me feel, man. This is how I seen it, man. I grew up like that, so that's not a foreign concept. But again, that's being around young men who had older men around us to tell us that's what men are supposed to do. If that's your nigga, you supposed to go talk to your nigga and say, yo, check this out, my G. Check this out, bro. Because you know that the issue is not greater than the bond. And there's only a few things that can separate a bond between two friends. That man either got to steal a substantial amount of money from you, slander your name greatly, or sleep with your wife. If it ain't one of those three things, man, ain't too much that two friends can't be put to the side that's going to break their bond unless it wasn't no bond to begin with. Now, of course, the beauty of Yasharal slain upon high places, y'all know what that is. The Son of Man must be lifted up, and when he be lifted up, all men will come unto him. Take it out of verse 20. Tell it not in Gath, publish it not in the streets of Ashkelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, lest the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph. Go ye not into the way of the Gentiles, and the way of Samaria enter ye not, but go only to the lost sheep of the house of Yasharal. Don't go around there telling them people, unless the uncircumcised daughters sit back and say, yeah, boy, we killed God. He out of here. Now we'll be able to rule. Triumph here is Elias, i.e. Lamad and Zayin. So they know that the shepherd been cut. That's a triumph and a joy for us, but that's even more so for our enemies. Let's continue. You mouths of Gilboa, let there be no dew, neither let there be rain upon you, nor the field of your offerings. For there the shield of the mighty is vilely cast away. The shield of Saul, as though he had not been anointed with oil. Same thing happened with Mashiach. He said, don't let him get no dew, no rain in the mountains of Gilboa. Let's look at Gilboa real quick, like on general principle. It's a swollen heat. You know, over here in Jezreel. You got Gamal, Lamad, and Ain. So guess what? You know that the shepherd is the messenger of the house, and you done cast him down. So guess what? Since you knew he was the son of Elohim, because that's why you killed him, because you were envious of him, because you knew, and you vilely cast him away as if Elohim had not anointed him the son of Elohim. That's just what you did. You're rotten, no good bastard Jew. Not y'all, but y'all know who. From the blood of the slain, from the fight of the mighty, the bow of Jonathan turned not back, the sword of Saul returned not empty. Saul and Jonathan were lovely and pleasant in their lives, and in their death they were not divided. They were swifter than eagles, they were stronger than lions. Look at this right here, right? Saul and Jonathan, father and son, and in the death of the son, him and the father, they were not divided. They were still one. We're going to read that in a moment. Now, the first thing I want you to look at is divided, which is parad, which is to separate. Pei, Rosh, and Dalet. The words of the highest is what got the son hung, but it didn't separate him. Let's look and see why. Luke chapter 23. Now, of course, y'all know in John chapter 10 what he told you, I and my Abba are one. All of this is still talking about how a just man walks in incompleteness and how the esteem of a son is in his father. We still got John 14 on deck. Yahuwah willing, we'll be there in a minute. Now, remember, right, we talking about sons. Sons are the crown of old men, and the esteem of sons are their fathers. Everything we talking about with Yahushua walking is his integrity is to the esteem of his father. Because we read that earlier in John 13, that let Abba be esteemed through the works of the son. Because when we come back to 20 and 6, or 20 and 7 of Proverbs 20, it said a just man walk in his integrity or his time, his completeness, and the covenant of the Ruach, and his sons are blessed after him, because we know how we bless. Our sins are remitted. You have the gift of life through the Ruach HaKadosh by him who is mediated a better covenant than the covenant that previously existed. He renewed it or caused you to be able to return back to it. And in your ability to return back to it, he gave you access to something that you didn't have access to, which is the remission of sins, to whether he will remember them no more, and the gift of everlasting life. The man's name ought to be esteemed and praised continually on that alone, before we even go into discussing anything else. Oh, man. Luke 23. 23 and 38. Pardon me for Luke chapter 23, verse 38. And the superscription also was written over him in the letters of the Greek, Latin, and Arabic. This is the Malik of the Yahudim. One of the malefactors which were hanged railed on him, saying, if you be Mashiach, save yourself and us. But the other answered and rebuked him, saying, do you not fear Elohim, seeing you are in the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds. But this man have done nothing amiss. He said unto Yahushua, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Yahushua said unto him, truly, truly I say unto you, today you shall be with me in paradise. It was about the 6th hour. There was darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour. The sun was darkened, and the veil of the temple was rent in the midst. And when Yahushua cried with a loud voice, he said, Abba, into your hands I commend my Ruach. And having said thus, he gave up the Ruach. Now, when you look at this here, right, the father and son, even in death, were not divided. Yahushua is Jonathan here. And of course, his father didn't die, but he has to be Saul because the father and son are not divided, even in death. They're stronger than lions. Of course, you know, strong as Gabar, prevail to have strength. Gamal, Ba, and Raj. The son is the messenger of the Abba. Yahushua is the messenger of Elohim. So, of course, he is going to prevail. So how he's going to be stronger than a lion. And of course, because he was stronger than a lion, he had a love that stayed closer than a brother. Let's continue. You daughters of Yasharal, weep over Saul, who clothed you in scarlet with other delights, who put on ornaments of gold upon your apparel. How are the mighty fallen in the midst of battle, O Jonathan? You were slain in the high places. And of course, we know where was Yahushua slain? In the high places. That's why I keep referencing that when it comes to Jonathan. And you know that Jonathan is you who has given. What has he given you in these high places where he was slain? Let's look at slain. It is Kalal. He was fatally wounded or pierced. Kat Lamai and Lamai. The discipline of the shepherd has separated, taking you back to not despise or abhor the chastisement of your war. For you who will love, he chastens. He said, I'm distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. Very pleasant have you been unto me. Your love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. Let's look at Pat, or wonderful, if you want. The words y'all should know. Allah, marvelous, wonderful, separate by distinguishing action. Let me tell you something, man. That is one thing that the average woman is not going to do. Can y'all tell me the number one thing that Jonathan did towards David that would make him say that his love was extraordinary and separate by a distinguishing act? A hard or difficult thing, something that was difficult to understand. Can y'all tell me the thing that Jonathan did that would make David say what he said? And this is still going to a love that stayed closer to a brother in regards to what Jonathan, exactly. Jonathan risked his life for David. went against his own father to spare David's life. I mentioned that because a woman would never do that. And that ain't no knock on a woman. It's not in her nature to sacrifice her life for a man, to put her life on the line for a man. It's not in her nature to do it. We've had this conversation in person. So you can't look at that and be mad with your wife. Why you won't die for me? And this, that, and the third. It's not in her nature to do that. It's in her nature to die for her offspring. Again, that woman did not carry you in her womb for 9 months. You cannot look for your woman to have the love and be willing to lay her life down for you like your mama would, because she is not going to do it. The woman wasn't instructed to lay her life down for her husband. The husband was. So again, I mentioned that you can't knock her for that. So that's a love that a woman can never compare to. You're not going to be willing to die for me. Why do you think dudes who fought together in any war, whether it's the first Gulf War, the second Gulf War, the run in Afghanistan, Korea, Vietnam, there's probably not too many people left alive from World War I. It's probably still a handful left alive from World War II. Why do you think they stick so close to those men if they still have contact with men who they fought battles with? Your wife is not wasn't standing next to you in no jungle in Vietnam, taking on incoming fire, carrying you to safety if you were wounded, out here literally ready to risk her life for you. That's just not reality. It's just not reality. And you can't be mad at them for that. That's my point. Again, that's why when dudes be on here, the woman is God, this, that, and the third. God lays life down. What woman laying her life down for anybody? It's disrespect and an abomination before you who to even utter such folly. Say a woman is God. That woman ain't going to die for anyone. Because he already told you a righteous man wouldn't dare do it. It was only one. Praise the Lamb. It was only one. Let's look at what I'm talking about in Ecclesiastes 7. It was only one. See, some of y'all be like this, man, he going hard on them women. You missing the point. What is about Elohim, boy? You missing the point. Let me finish this last verse in Ecclesiastes. 2 Samuel 1. How are the mighty fallen and the weapons of war perished? Because again, you have to look at the aspect of what's being pointed to. Because it said this is passing the love of women. And basically it says Pala, Ahava, Isha. So this is a wonderful love. And then it say women. This is a greater love than what a woman can manifest. Because he's already known. But Jonathan sought to lay his life. Well, this man put his own life at risk. And why did Jonathan put his life at risk for David? Because he knew David was an Elohim. They made a covenant with one another. Jonathan, a man of his word, he entered into an agreement. I'm riding with you. We can't even see the parallel. We can't even see the parallel. That Jonathan would be akin to Peter. Because that's the same love Peter had for the Lord. He riding with him. Two men. And like I say, that nigga gay, he say the love was one. That's dudes who can't even understand the concept because they don't love their brother. They don't love their father. They don't love their grandfather. They don't love their uncles. So they can't fathom a man having that kind of love for his brother. And he'll sit back, how could you have more love for your homeboy than your woman? Nigga, what? Not the question of how could you have more love? How could you not? And if you're a woman and that bothers you, what does that say about you? Because at the end of the day, when he going to build and go to war, he ain't going to build and go to war with you. That junk always tripped me out when I seen that lady say something about why women ain't write out no books in the Bible because we were too busy doing this and doing that. So what you thought men would do is just the utter contempt and disrespect for the labor of men, as if women have built societies and cultivated cultures. You haven't done that to have that level of contempt and disrespect, which is really the utter contempt and disrespect that you have for our Abba and Shamahim. And I've been saying this stuff for years, so don't think that I just started. I wasn't standing for it in 2011, and I ain't standing for it now. You know what I'm talking about? I done been in the street and had chicks want to throw hands with me for telling them the truth. I ain't with it. I am a man. My Abin Shamahim is represented as a man, and I'm going to stand with him. That cornball into my, why is there a heavenly father, not a heavenly mother? What type of nigga is you? Men and women are equal. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. I believe it. I believe it, man. All this is just assert, man. If you a man, bro, then you should attract a feminine woman. And a feminine woman is a sight to behold. It's a sight to behold. That's why the book say a prudent wife is from Yahuwah. A wise, circumspect woman, a Yah-fearing woman, that's a sight to behold because she's going to be a feminine woman. I've been telling you ladies for years, you're going to get more from a man from being feminine than you'll ever get from following this junk that these women out here talking about. Because that's the pattern that Yahuwah told Yasharal to follow. It ain't hard to get a man to do for you if you're a woman. Most women find it hard to get anything from a man because they're not a woman. And most women overinflate their value. You're not as good. Your homegirls lie to you. They tell you you're good and you're not. And when I say you're not as good as you think you are. Not as good as you think you are. Because a woman is a reflection of her man. And that woman is a reflection of who that man is on the inside based on what he has chosen. So how do you represent your man? Do you keep your hair done? Do you keep your gear on point? Or do you walk around out the door looking like you throwed away and cast away? Because that's how these go. You gonna represent your husband like that? So somebody could, because back in the day, that's what they would say. Oh, that's a such and such, wife of such and such. That's how it was. That's how it was spoken. When somebody mentioned your name, your husband's name was mentioned right after that. You comfortable somebody seeing you and knowing that you such and such husband, and you look like you cast away and throwed away, and you cool with that? Then as a man, why you let her do it? Why do you allow her to do it? You supposed to let her, that's disrespect. Don't you dare walk out the door looking like no castaway and you disrespecting my honor and image in such a fashion. Don't you dare. You gonna step out the door, nigga, do your hair. And if you ain't gonna do your hair, then maybe you might just need to leave. How you too lazy to keep yourself beautified? How does that even work? Especially if a man is taking care of you. So you mean to tell me the one thing that you can do is not this is to beautify yourself and keep your figure intact? You can't even do that. But here comes, well, I got all these kids. I don't want to hear that crap. Because it's a bald-headed skank hoe with 3-4 kids right now. Keep herself beautified with no man in the house. So nobody want to hear that. Those are just excuses. You know what I'm talking about? Those are just excuses. We don't have to do that. Well, us, how do we beautify ourselves? We're supposed to put on Mashiach. That's beauty in the eyesight of man. The man say, you step out the door, you ought to beautify yourself. Beautify yourself in the beauty of Kadash. Put that on. Let that be your garment. Let that be your hairstyle. You know what I'm saying? But see, we don't see it that way. We don't see it that way. Because that's a representation of your husband. When we look in the text, we're going to talk about this before. Don't nobody want no woman all in niggas' faces. You kicking with every nigga you see, it's whorish behavior. Feminine women don't do that. Loyal and just women don't do that because they wouldn't want to dare have any dishonor brought to their husband's name because the level of reverence and respect that they have for that man. What does that take us to spiritually? He said, because you have blasphemed my name amongst the Gentiles and profaned my name among the mountains. Got people talking bad about me because of you. Got people talking bad about me because of you. You didn't care how you made me look. He said, I got to get back honor for my name. That's what the man said, ain't it? I got to get back honor for my name. So he sent a just man to walk in his integrity so that his sons would be blessed after him in order to do that. That's why he was slain among the high places. That's why the Father and the Son were not divided even in death. Abba and Yahushua were not separated even in death. He rose his son from the dead. He gave him power to lay his life down. He gave him power to take it up again. And again, all these natural concepts is for us to stand the concept of us in heaven or us on earth manifesting the will in heaven. It may sound harsh, but it's reality though. It's reality though. And it's a reality that must be told because our lives are on the line. There is a day of restitution. We are going to have to pay. Why would you not want to just get down with the man who already paid the toll? He's already paid the price. That man don't want what you got to offer. He don't want it. Remember, say he changed not, man. He's the same man. Consistency. So he said, you sons of Jacob, you not consumed. I will not allow you to perish. I will not destroy you completely. Because I'm a merciful Elohim, who show mercy to thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments and forgive sin and iniquity. Forgiving transgression is what he told you. So he does not change. He is still the same. But his concepts, his principles, and his honor, he will not compromise. John chapter 14. See, and a man represents his house. See, and I say represent his house because that's something different. But John 14 and 4. When you look at the type of, and you don't have to look at yourself now if you've been married for a while, because you shouldn't be the same person that you were from the day you got married and from the day that you met your wife. But who you were as a person at the time that you met your wife is the reason why you chose your wife. It's for to be someone that you pursued. Who you were as a person at the time you married her was reflective of who she is. That's why you married her. See, we don't want to sit back and you want to deal with that because people don't want to look at that. But who you pick is a reflection of who you are as a man. And that's just reality. There's no word involved. That's just real life. Most of us don't want to look at it. I'm dealing with a young woman now, and I had to ask her, this is what I need you to do. Look at the qualities of the men who you dealt with versus the qualities you want in a man, and then ask yourself, why have you not been choosing that? Because the men you choose are reflective of how you felt about yourself. That's why you chose to bump behind niggas in the first place. See, here's one thing if you pick one bump nigga, just like if you pick one slut hoe. But if you had her of picking women like that, or picking dudes like that, oh, there's a problem. There's a problem. Now, thank the Lord, most of you young men, y'all got married rather early. So you ain't have to get caught up. See, we were talking about it earlier too. Most women get in this word and they feel like a man should marry them just because they in the word. And they put on the Ritz to perpetrate themselves to be what they believe a man would want. And they're not really as good of a woman or a potential wife as they think they are. Then when they actually get married, they find themselves woefully unprepared for the vocation. Most people are so proud, they don't want to hear when somebody tell them, you ought not to do that just because you're unprepared. Have you weighed this out of what you're about to get into? Because everybody think getting married is hugs and kisses and champagne wishes and all this other type of stuff, and it's not. It's a day-to-day grind. And the person you knew on Tuesday may not be the same person that you know today. If they're seeking to continually improve themselves and another person is not. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at that. If you're trying to improve yourself physically and your wife is not, that can cause a disconnect. Just like I heard Bud tell this woman say she's 220 pounds. He told you need to lose some weight. She say, why? It's the sad part is a lot dudes been conditioned to say if a woman come and say, do I look fat? To say, nah, you look good, instead of telling her, yeah, you fat. You need to put the hot dogs down and get on the treadmill and pick up the barbell. Now, and somebody, well, that would be mean. But what's mean is not telling her that she is gaining weight. And you asked. So I'm supposed to lie to you and tell you, no, you ain't gaining weight. You look perfect. You're fine. You're beautiful as you are. See, Lizzo, big old plump, healthy behind, she just came out and say, I don't know if I'm with this anymore. Because all it does is it causes people to revel. I'm mentioning that it's just not my way. It causes people to look at situations and circumstances and say that I don't have to improve. See, sadly, women are not told they have to improve. A man is told from the day he's born that he has to improve. He cannot remain stagnant. He has to improve. He has to improve. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. When I'm talking about improvement, I ain't talking about just financially. He has to improve spiritually. He has to improve mentally. He has to gain emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, the ability to identify his emotions and then the ability to control them. He has to be able to identify that. He has to improve as a leader. He has to improve as a father, as a force of administrator of discipline, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and reproof. He has to improve in those areas. He has to improve in everyone. He has to improve in being physically fit because he must be in a physical fashion to be able to labor for his household and to protect it. He has to improve. There's no room for lackadaisical conduct. He can't kick his feet up. He has to consistently and constantly improve every day of his life. And just like we've been telling y'all, a man doesn't hit his peak of putting it all together until he's older. He's not going to be at the peak of his powers in his 20s. He's not going to be at the peak of his power in his 20s. He's not going to hit the peak of his power until he hits his 30s because he's gained more life experience. He's learned more things, which allows him to be more mature, to put all of these things together. And look what you see when Yahushua began to preach at 30. The same way you see with the priest, you don't get to go to labor in the temple till you're 30. That doesn't mean a young man can't do no labor or any labor, excuse me, but it's a fact of the level of maturity of a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old is drastically different. I guarantee you, every man on here has improved greatly, exponentially at the age he's at now versus when he was 20. He has no choice. A woman is told she doesn't have to improve. You don't have to lose any weight. You don't have to keep your gear up. You don't have to do your hair because you're beautiful just the way that you are. And if they can't love you as you are, then they can't love you at all. That's why they came with that crap about the Lord talking about come as you are. But that's a lie from hell. That man say, wash you, make you clean, and cease from doing evil from before my eyes. That's what he said to do. He said, you're going to have to improve if you're going to come to me. You're not coming to me any kind of way because now you're going to represent me and you're not going to dishonor me. See, these are the concepts of what happens when you have a culture, and that culture is taught and manifested. That's where the offspring understand. John chapter 14 and verse 4. You just have to sit back and look at it in that area because everything's going to take us back to you. Every natural situation that I mentioned is going to take you back to your Elohim and how you interact with him. Then it allows us to consider on a twofold level how we're interacting with each other, friend to friend, spouse to spouse, brother to brother, sister to sister, sister to brother. And then, of course, servant to Elohim. Am I manifesting the love and way of Elohim on this earth? And am I manifesting that to him who sits in heaven? Because everything that we're discussing is discussing on taking on the mind of Elohim. And this is how the just man walking in his completeness. Because all the things that I'm mentioning, Yahushua walked in that. And that's how his sons after him are blessed. We're able to get the increase. We're able to get the happiness that comes from being one with Elohim. Because even in death, we won't be divided from him. Because he said, he that believeth in me, I'm the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me shall never taste this. Well, he that live and believe in me shall never taste death. Do you believe that? So even in death, you're not divided from him. Real quick, man. Like I say, right, with Saul, right? You got the who has given and desired. There was a desire. It behooved him to be made like unto his brethren. And it is written, and it behooved Mashiach to suffer and rise from the dead the third day. He desired to do it. And because he desired to do it, who has given? What did he give you? Everlasting life. Therefore, you won't be divided from him in death. That's a beautiful thing to allow you to be stronger than a lion. Remember what it was. It was Gabar. So what do you know? You know that Yahusha is the messenger of Elohim. What message did he bring? The message of the redemption of sins through faith, which allows you to get an inheritance through faith. And the just live by their faith. So if you're righteous, you're going to live according to the belief, which takes you back to Abraham, because faith without works is dead, because you believe the promise of Elohim. Therefore, you do works according to the promise of Elohim, and therefore you are a friend of Elohim, and therefore there's a love that's going to stick closer to you than a brother. John 14 and 4. You can make it 6. We don't need verse 4. Yahushua said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to Abba but by me. If you had known me, you should have known my Abba also. And from henceforth you know him and have seen him. Philip said unto him, Lord, show us Abba, and it suffices us. Yahushua said unto him, have I so long time been with you, and you have not known me, Philip? He that have seen me, seen Abba. How say you then, show us Abba? Believe you not that I am in Abba, and Abba in me? The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but Abba that dwell in me, he do the work. That took us back to all that stuff I mentioned at the beginning. That's not no witchcraft. That's not no magic. Well, that's the power of the spirit of the living Elohim. Don't you blaspheme that man's spirit. I dare compare it to any level of magic and witchcraft. It's an abomination of the disgrace before Elohim, and you ought to repent for the asinine and silly thought of your heart to even dare thinking it in your heart, much less uttering it out of your mouth. To dare disrespect this man's spirit by even comparing it to any level of magic. Everything Moses did, he did by the power of Elohim. No magic or witchcraft needed. The only thing that's needed to manifest the power of Elohim is an unwavering, unshakable, unbendable, unbreakable faith in the word of the living Elohim, of which most people do not possess. Which most people do not possess. And then on top of that, that's a gift. If he give you gift of miracles, that's up to Elohim's discretion. Because miracles are for those who believe, but for those who don't believe. But at the end of the day, everybody want to be God. But you can't be Yahuwah, because Yahuwah is the nicest, the greatest, the realest, the strongest, the wisest man to ever walk this earth. Because we're such a people who is blessed that our Elohim loved us enough to manifest himself as a man and lay his life down. So now we have a right to an inheritance that we might be blessed. Nobody else has that witness or testimony of any God whom they serve. That's why you can't get caught up with people talking trash about the word. They don't know what they're talking about. Let them live, baby. You don't know. And you're so used to talking to people who don't know, or people who don't adhere, that there's no way that you're going to hear in order to be saved. But thank the Lord that he done gave us a heart and a mind to seek after his perfect will and uphold it. Blessed be the living Elohim in the name of Yahushua. You ought to be grateful. Let me talk to you about blessed right here, right? Y'all know what it is. Happiness, blessedness. I just want to talk to you about a little Olive, Sean, and Raj. Go ahead and get paired to the strength of Elohim. See, when you bless, you're paired to the strength of Elohim, which takes us to you not being divided from him in death. I referenced John 11. I always don't need an excuse for John 11. So let's take a look at it. 11 and 17. See, one thing I know is I ain't for everybody. And I ain't talking about just what I'm preaching. It's just the analogies or viewpoints that I may express. They very well may offend a lot of people. I genuinely are unconcerned. Because you who are willing We thank Elohim for as many people that he can draw for the hearing of his love and the receiving of his faith. But truth be told, I really genuinely be first and foremost focused on the people who've been here. Oh, John 11:17. And if an individual, now of course some of y'all watch on here, some of you comment, some of you don't. Praise be to Elohim for each and every last one of you. I pray that he strengthen your heart, that you receive the Ruach HaKodesh and your soul be saved. You ain't never got to mention us, supposed to say I'm here, or this, that, and the third, because it's not about that. When I'm talking about our folks, the people who've been here, what's been people who've been rolling for 8 years, some for 5, some for 6. I'm talking about I can see them, I can touch them. They've been to where I dwelt, I've been to where they dwelt. I done slept in some of their homes. Some of them fed me some of their food. Some of them we done broke bread together with business-wise. Right? He able to get me some money, I'm able to get him some money, all that type of stuff. So when I'm talking about dealing with an individual, I'm talking about the people who've been here, I can see them. That doesn't make them any greater than those of you whom I can't see or whom I can't talk to. But if you know that I could go on my phone and call you, then of course you're going to have a high level of precedent over someone who I cannot. Now, I say that in that regard of anybody who watch on here, oh, you can get my number, you call me, I'll talk to you, so surely will. I ain't talking about no email neither. You ain't got to send me no YouTube message DM. You ain't got to email me, and some of these brothers on here can tell you that. Because I know Tavon can tell you that. I know Ish can tell you that. I did not know these men. These men say, hey, how can I get in contact with you? I didn't give them an email address. I told them you could call me. Because, and why do I say that? Because if you're dealing with anybody with, I don't care where you go at, you should be able, if you need to be able to talk to the men and hear their voice. And if you who will permit that you could walk up on them and smell their cologne. And I'm glad I said something about cologne. Because somebody posted something about this here, right? And they went to talking about cologne or things related to cologne in the text. And I want to share that with y'all before we leave here. Because those of you know me know I love a good fragrance. Definitely do. I have a problem with it. And I'm not ashamed to say it. But one thing's for certain and two things for sure. Ain't nothing wrong with smelling good. And as a grown man, you ought to smell good all the time. I don't care where you going. Man, I got a homegirl every time I share a fragrance that I'm wearing that even that nigga say, where you going? I said, I ain't going nowhere. That nigga don't never believe me. I'm like, well, I ain't going nowhere. You should put a fragrance on if you're going to the gym, if you're going to the grocery store, if you're riding in the car. I wouldn't care where you're going. You should just have that much love and care for yourself that you want to look good and smell good no matter where you're going and what you're doing. I learned that from my mom and my auntie. They told me that. I'm going, I don't care. I'm putting it on. I go out to work, I put one on. Ain't nothing wrong with it. We're going to go on the text and look at it too. And I'm going to show y'all something too. For the stupid niggas who say calamus is marijuana, you ought to kick them in their doggone chin. Because I got colognes on this doggone dresser right now that got calamus in it. And that ain't no marijuana. Now, there is a fragrance I'm looking to purchase that has cannabis in it. Does have a cannabis note. Cannabis and calamus is two different things. Who are willing, we're going to look at that in a moment. John 11:17. When Yahushua came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. Now, Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off, and many of the Yahudim came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Yahushua was coming, went and met him, but Mary sat still in the houses. Then said Martha unto Yahushua, Lord, if you had been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever you will ask Elohim, Elohim will give it to you. Yahushua said unto her, your brother shall rise again. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Yahushua said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believe in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever live and believe in me shall never die. Believe you this. That's what we have to sit back and look at. Saul and Jonathan were united in death. Are you united in death with Elohim? That you were immersed into his death, but would be raised in the likeness of his resurrection? That's the question we got to ask ourselves. Ain't that right? That's what we would need to ask ourselves. Let me take you out of something real quick, right? So at least it'd be somewhat relevant and prevalent of talking about these fragrances. Proverbs chapter 7. Something we done dealt with in the past. We have to make it relevant and prevalent. Why I say that? Because we talking about Yahusha dying. So that's how we're going to do it. And we're going to manifest a quick testimony, and we're going to slide out of here and give praise and thanks to the living Elohim, and just do it like that. Because I was teetering on what we're going to do to the barren woman tonight or on the morrow. And Yahuwah willing, my mind went in the direction for us to do it on the morrow, because I want the women to be present for it, especially because y'all weren't present for the first half when we were talking about him giving birth with Rachel and the midwife and things of that nature. And sometimes when we deal with certain stuff that pertain to women, I prefer for them to be present. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 14. He said, I have peace offerings with me this day. I have paid my vows. Therefore, I come forth I to meet you diligently to seek your face, and I have found you. I've decked my bed with coverings of tapestry and carved works with fine linen of Mizraim. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. What's the secret? I got 1 million privé. It's got cinnamon in it. I want you to look at perfume. This one here, it is new. So it's not the word that you're going to see for perfume in another place. It means to move to and fro, to wave, to be sprinkled, to brandish, things of that nature. So there's a sprinkling of the bed with myrrh. There is a particular scent that I desire to purchase that has myrrh, but I think I do got one of them. I got myrrh in it. I don't remember the name. Myrrh is more, excuse me. It is an Arabian gum from the bark of a tree. That's where myrrh comes from. It comes from a tree. Same thing with oud or arga wood. It comes from a tree. You got Meme and Raj. So there's the Ruach of Elohim with the myrrh. I just want you to keep that in mind. Now you come in, we got aloes. I don't think I got anything that's got aloe in it. It's Elohim, the aloe tree, or aloe for a perfume. And then, of course, we have cinnamon, which is canoe, of course, a fragrant bark used as a spice. See why I mention this here? Because one of my fragrance choices is woody, aromatic, or spicy fragrance. I'm mentioning this because a lot of the fragrances that you see in the text are under the aromatic and spicy family. For those of you who are not familiar with fragrances, you have different type of fragrances. You got like gourmand, stuff that smells like ice cream. I don't want to mention brands as if I'm doing shameless plugging for them, but like I got something like Noir Extreme. It's a gourmand, smells like an Arabian ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Then you have like aquatic notes, stuff that smell like the sea, things of that nature. And then you have woody aromatic, stuff that's used with trees, sandalwood, barks, things of that nature. Of course, you got florals and fruity type notes. But when you look in the text, you'll see that it'll be usually woody aromatics and spices. And when I was thinking about this, because a young lady asked, was it witchcraft to burn sage? And somebody shared her the verses in regards a couple places with fragrance. It's for scent. None of these scents were burned for the purpose of tearing away spirit. Like dudes is so dumb. That's why you say they're dumb dogs that can't bark. You don't know what you're talking about, so you can't really speak on it. That they use verses in regards to every verse does not fit every single solitary life situation. They did not burn things in the temple to scare away spirits. And it's a sad state of affairs that we say that on a regular basis. Come over here to John 19, if you would. Praise Elohim. We make it all fit in together. 19 and 38. And you could go to Matthew 26. Matthew 26. I called all them Psalms out when we started, and we ain't look at damn one of them. Ain't that's just harsh. Hold on. Ain't that done with this anymore? I'm trying to remember when that was at. It'll come to me in a moment. John 19:38.
After this, Joseph of Arimathea, being a disciple of Yahushua, but secretly for fear of Yahudim, besought Pilate that he might take away the body of Yahushua. Pilate gave him leave. He came therefore and took the body of Yahushua. There came also Nicodemus, which at the first came to Yahushua by night, and brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100-pound weight, as we just seen myrrh and aloe in Proverbs 7, putting upon the bed in the grave. Then they took the body of Yahushua, wadded in linen clothes with the spices, and was the man of the Yahudim is to bear. Even in burial, boy, they had to put a fragrance on. Boy, I got to smell good, boy, even in death, boy. I'm asking y'all now, but more important to mine. If I die, tell them spray my body with cologne. I don't care what nobody say. I'll let you know which one I want. I don't know yet. Right now, it could be tobacco vanille, tobacco oud, but you make sure if I die, my body is sprayed with cologne. That's an explicit request. That's what I desire. I desire that. Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden, a new sepulchre, wherein never man yet laid. And there they laid Yahushua. Therefore, because of the Yahudim's preparation day for the sepulchre was near at hand. Matthew 26. Dang, the king is escaping my mind. They did his feet. I want to grab that before we get out of here. And there it is. Praise the Lamb. Matthew chapter 26, verse 6. After that, 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 11. Now, when Yahushua was this is Matthew 26 and 6, he was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper. Then came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. And when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, to what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to him. Yahushua understood it. He said to them, why you the woman? She have wrought a good work upon me. For you have poor always with you, but me you have not always. For in that she have poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Again, we're talking about ointments, spices, if you would. 2 Chronicles chapter 16 and verse 11. You know what? Take it to verse 7 on general principle. At that time, Hananiah the seer came to Asa, Malach of Yehuda, said unto him, because you have relied on the king of Syria and not relied on Yahuwah your Elohim, therefore is the host of the king of Syria escaped out of your hand. Were not the Ethiopians and Libyans a huge host, with very many chariots and horsemen? Yet because you did rely on Yahuwah, he delivered them into your hand. For the eyes of Yahuwah run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in behalf of those whose heart is perfect towards him. For the eyes of Yahuwah run to and fro throughout the whole earth, to show himself strong in behalf of them whose heart is perfect towards him. Herein you have done foolishly, from henceforth you shall have wars. Then Asa was wroth with the seer and put him in the prison house, for he was enraged with him because of this thing. And Asa oppressed some of the people at the same time. Behold, the acts of Asa, the first and the last, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Yehuda and Yasharal. Asa in the 39th year of his reign was diseased in his feet, until the disease was exceeding great. Yet in his disease he saw not unto Yahuwah, but to the physicians. Asa slept with his fathers and died in the 41st year of his reign. They buried him in his own sepulchre, which he had made for himself in the city of David, and laid him in a bed which was filled with sweet odors and diverse kinds of spices, prepared by the Apocryphe's art, and they made a very great burning for him. Let's look at Apocryphy, which is perfumery, if you would. That is perfumery. When you look at that word, it is
Strong's H4842.
I didn't want you to talk for me, cuz. I don't know how that happened. Cuz, when to talk. That nigga sound like he just don't like his life, like he's sad. But it's myrrh ka'af, which is ointment, a mixture of ointment, but also aromatic unguent. This is an aromatic scent. When you deal with this here, right? And you got mean, raj, ku, ka, and tau. So you can see how the last Adam's ruach has separated you unto a covenant. The first Adam was of the earth, earthy. The second Adam was of heaven, heavenly. This is the apocryphy art. Sweet odors were made for him. Keep that in your brain. Sweet odors is basim, a spice, a balsam tree, perfume, sweet smell. On that one there, you got Bat, Shan, and Meen. So go ahead and see how the sun was consumed for you to receive the Ruach in order to give this sweet odor. Let's go to Exodus chapter 30. Exodus 30. Exodus 30. And 22. Exodus 30 and 22. Moreover, you who was speaking to Moses, saying, take you also unto the principal of spices, pure myrrh, 500 shekels, and of sweet cinnamon, half so much, even 200 shekels. Sweet calamus, 250 shekels. Now, we've already looked at myrrh and cinnamon. Let's look at calamus. That is kane. That is a reed. It is a stalk. It is a balance. That's what it's described as. Kuf, noon, and hay. So you can see that. No. We're not talking about, we're talking about altar offering, but not sacrifices per se. As forth as animals, if that's what you're referring to. But let me get y'all calamus real quick. Show you what that is. If I can take this. So you can see it. No, that's a little too dark. Maybe that is calamus. That is not marijuana. That is not marijuana. That is calamus. That is not marijuana. Dudes tell you calamus is marijuana. That is not marijuana. Again, this is calamus, called the sweet flag. It's in several perfumes and colognes. It is a plant. It is used to make medicine. Also, it can help in the aiding of upset stomach. Now, it's also, you got the word bosum, which is also a scent or a perfume. That is what calamus is. It is not marijuana. I want to get a cologne because I just seen a cologne the other night when I was checking notes and fragrances. It's usually, that's another fragrance type that I enjoy, which is fougères. So it's usually found in those. One cologne, that's what the cologne I was looking at, that has calamus in it is Tom Ford Sahara Noir, which is discontinued. There's actually a cologne called the New Jerusalem, the Holy New Jerusalem. You can't make this up. You can't even make this up. There is actually a cologne that is called Holy New Jerusalem. I don't even know if y'all can see it, but that's what it's called. And what does it have in it? Myrrh, olive, cinnamon, cassia bourbon, calamus, and oily notes. And it has a very low rating of 2. It's unfortunate for that, if you would. I'm trying to see if it's a scent on here that anybody would be familiar with that has calamus in it. I'm definitely not familiar with any of these, except for the first one that I mentioned. So that's what that is. That's the fragrance. That's for scent. That's for perfumery, if you would. We'll probably see bosim in a second. And then in verse 24, and of cassia 500 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary, and an oil olive on a hin. Let's look at cassia. Cassia is kadah. That is a spice. Kuf, dalit, and hay. Behold, the last sacrifice. This is what it says in verse 25. And you shall make it an oil of kadash ointment, an ointment compound after the art of apocryphy. It shall be a kadash anointing oil. Now, apothecary here is rakak, that is to mix into compound, Raj, Kuf, and Kai. So you can see how the last atom has separated. What has the last atom been separated by? Myrrh, cinnamon, calamus, and cassia. You cannot make an ointment or a compound of these and be in good standing with Elohim. This was only to be made and used in the temple, which he's about to tell them. And he said, you shall anoint the tabernacle of the congregation therewith, and the ark of the testimony, the table and all his vessels, the candlestick and his vessels, and the altar of incense, the altar of burning with all his vessels, the laver in his foot. And you shall sanctify them, that they may be most Kadash. Whatsoever touch them shall be Kadash. And you shall anoint Aaron and his sons and consecrate them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. One of these things is the purpose of why you see in Yahushua get baptized and then be anointed with the Ruach HaKadosh. And even more so, why you saw him being anointed by the woman before his burial. Because this is an anointing compound, as you can see in verse 25. So the anointing compound that you see her placing on it doesn't mention the spices, but you can see the fulfilling of the scriptures because it needed to be done, that it might be sanctified, that it might be most Kadash. And that he should anoint Aaron and his sons and set them apart that they might serve. This is why you see Yahushua being anointed with oil by Mary at his death. Verse 31 of Exodus 30. You shall speak unto the sons of Yasharal, saying, this shall be a Kadash anointing oil unto me throughout your generations. Upon man's flesh shall it not be poured, neither shall you make any other like it after the composition of it. It is Kadash, and it shall be Kadash unto you. This fragrance compound, note breakdown that he used, said it was strictly for the anointing of the tabernacle of the congregation, the ark of the testimony. That's why Yahushua can be anointed with it in Matthew, because he is the ark of the testimony and the tabernacle of the congregation. Also the altar of the burnt offering, which he was. But you couldn't have that poured on you. That would be a transgression for you. It's not for you. Listen what he says in verse 33. Whosoever compound any like it, whosoever put any of it upon a stranger, shall even be cut off from his people. When we look at compound like it, again, it's rakak. So any man who does this, only Elohim could do this. Let's continue, verse 34. Because there's a scent that I desire that has some of these notes in it. Verse 34, and Yahuwah said unto Moses, take unto you sweet spices, stacked, ancha, galbanum, these sweet spices with pure frankincense, each shall be there like a weight. Now let's look at all of those fragrances and then those scents, and then we'll take it. Sweet spices here is psalm, a spice used in incense. You got samach and mean, grab hold to the ruach. Let's look at sweet spices real quick, like. Don't want to cooperate. So when you look at things that usually have sweet, spicy scents in it, something like, well, what I got over here, that Tom Ford Tobacco Vanilla, which I have on right now, Sunlight Creed, Original Santal, or Jupe Home. But I'm trying to find something that mentions spices itself. Well, I had to say this one here. I had this one in the back. Mention the spices. It doesn't. It doesn't. This one here has got nutmeg and saffron for the Tom Ford Noir Extremes. Saffron and nutmeg. You're going to see saffron when we go over here to Songs of Solomon. Quick line. Let's look at the next one, right? That word is stas, and it's nataf, noon, tet, and pay. So you can see that you need to be contained or filled with the words of life. It's an aromatic gum resin of a shrub used in incense. Some of the stuff that I don't think all the times we sit back and look at it, that's used in fragrances of where they come from. And again, this stash and ancha and gablum, see all the perfumes of Arabia. These are things that are really used in what they would call the Middle East, or what a lot of in perfumery of people who still live in our native area still wear to this day. Now you have ancha, which is shekalat, and this is another ingredient used in Kadash incense, and it's an aromatic mussel. That's what this is. It's an aromatic mussel. Let's see if we can find something in that regard with that. And it was also used as an adulterant of myrrh in the spice trade. It's also an essential oil. It's good for the cardiovascular system, skin health, and it helps control your blood sugar. And it relieves colds, coughs, sore throats, and bronchitis. The next thing we got is galbanum, which is kale banah, kat, lamad, bat, noon, and hay. And again, this is another resin, an odorous gum that is used in this incense. These are all spicy type scents. And I should have just been putting it in there so you can see the plant. That's the plant. That's galbanum right there. I'll go back and show you all the pictures of the plant. It's a popular fragrance ingredient. It's bitter aromatic gum resin, extracted from umbelliferous Asiatic plant species, and it's used extensively in modern perfumery as a fixative agent or an ingredient used to stabilize other perfume components. Let me get the ancha and show you that plant. Let's look at that plant. See what it looks like. You don't get me a picture for that plant. Let's move on because we're running late. Verse 35. And you shall make it a perfume, a confection after the art of the apocryphy, tempered together, pure and kadash. Now I want you to look at this here, right? Because all this is bearing witness to the sun. First thing with perfume, it is ketaret. That's an incense, a smoke, an odor of burning, an incense, a perfume, a sweet smoke of sacrifice. Kuf, tet, rosh, and tau. So you take that kuf, and now we're gonna say light. You take that tet, now you're filled with light. Now we take Yahusha. Yahusha was filled with light and brought in the sac or brought in the covenant. We talked about the covenant when we were in Hebrews 9. So we said that when we look at a perfume or a sweet odor. I remember to tell y'all to remember that. Apocryphy is rakak. We've already discussed that. Rokak is for confection, which is a spice mixture, a perfume, and an ointment, rosh, kuf, and kai. So again, the last Adam has separated you. Remember, this Kadash ointment or perfume is separate. Nobody else can use this. Then it says it needs to be tempered together. Tempered together. Tempered together is malak. That is to be rubbed or washed with salt. To rub pieces or pulverize that disappear as dust. Also the salt, whether internally to season with salt, externally to rub with salt, to season, to temper together. Mim, lamad, and kat be separated by the ruachs, the ruach of the shepherd or the blood of the shepherd. But come over here to Luke 14 with that salt. Luke 14 and 33. Luke 14 and 33. Luke 14 and 33. Luke 14 and 33. So likewise, whosoever be of you that forsake not all that he have cannot be my disciple. Salt is good, but if the salt had lost its savor, wherewith shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land nor yet for the dunghill. The men cast it out. He that have ears to hear, let him hear. If you're not tempered together, if these good old ointments that we looking at, and we probably might revisit them again on another day. If it ain't salted, it ain't no good. You're not pure and kadosh. Come over here to Matthew 5. I think he mentioned salt again. Yeah, he did. 5 and 13. It's about the same thing, but it's all good. Matthew 5 and 13. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt have lost its savor, wherewith shall be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and trodden under the foot of men. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it in a bushel, but on a candlestick, that it may give light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and esteem your Abba, which is in Shamahim. So when we look at it, right, all of those things that to give off that sweet odor needs to be tahor kadash, pure and clean, and set apart. Verse 36. And you shall beat some of it very small and put it before the ark, before the testimony, and the tabernacle of the congregation, where I will meet with you, and it shall be most kadash. I say you need to beat it small. Shakak, to rub away, to beat, to pulverize. Son, Ka, and Kuf. So now you see how the light was consumed and separated. Because Yahushua was beaten, pulverized. You already know this. We talked about that when we were talking about him being oppressed. He was beaten and he was pulverized. And he was beaten and pulverized and had to be made very small. Very small here is the cock. And again, it is the pur to be crushed. Dalit and 2 coups. So look at it, right? A last light that came through a sacrifice, that came through a hanging. A final light. Again, that's what it had to sit back and look at. He had to be pulverized, which is why he say, Abba, into your hand I commend my ruach. He already knew what was going down. And that's why he did that before the testimony in the tabernacle of the congregation, and he met it. And of course, remember, right, he made prayers. I want you to keep all that in mind. And as for the perfume which you shall make, you shall not make it to yourselves according to the composition thereof. It shall be unto you kadash for Yahuwah. Whoever shall make like that unto it to smell thereof too shall be cut off from his people. Composition here is proportion, measurement. That word is makaneth. You can't make no cologne like this. What was those notes again? Sweet pot spices, stot, ancha, galbanum, frankincense. He said, don't do it. He said, that's strictly to anoint the most set apart things in the tabernacle. Songs of Solomon, chapter 4. Verse 12. Songs of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 12. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse. A spring shut up, a fountain sealed. The plants are an orchard of pomegranates with pleasant fruits, camphire and spikenard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, with all trees of frankincense, myrrh, and aloes, with all the chief spices. Spikenard, that word is nard, is an odoriferous aromatic plant from India, as they describe it, Noon, Rosh, and Dalit. God willing, I'm probably going to come back to all of these because all of these spices are going to show forth how the son will be blessed and the barren woman, and Yahuwah willing, I think that's what we're going to do. So when you got Noon, Rosh, and Dalit, you see how the sacrifice of Yahushua has brought forth life. Now you have saffron. I mentioned that before you a while ago. That is carcome. It is an orange-yellow flower of the crocus family. Some people use it in drinks to promote perspiration for the cooling of the body, but it's also used in fragrances. You got Kaf, Rosh, Kaf, and Mim. So you can see how Yahusha was subdued. Let me see, because some of the stuff for cop is escaping my mind, and we need more than subdued. I was going to say open palm, but I don't know if I want open palm. And so we will look at that. Yahusha was subdued and filled with the Ruach when we look at that saffron. Of course, we've already talked about cinnamon, frankincense, myrrh, and aloe. What's a different word for frankincense here? Lavona, compounded oil and incense, white resin burned as a fragrant incense, lamad, bat, oud, noon, hey, behold, the sun's discipline secures life when we look at it in regards to frankincense. And why do we look at all of this? Galatians 5, I believe. Because all of this is going to set the stage for the barren woman, how his sons are blessed after him. Oh, it is not Galatians 5. So it was Ephesians 5. Pardon me. Ephesians 5 and 1. Be therefore followers of Elohim as dear sons, and walk in love as Mashiach also have loved us, and given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet smelling savor. When we look at all of those notes, spices, plants, whatever you will, that were put into those perfumes, it was a manifestation of the sweet smelling savor, which is why Yahushua was anointed with those things before his death. For the anointing of what we looked at in the law, for him to fulfill that aspect, and also to give off in regards to the offering of incense. But it's not that. Remember, we talk, and we probably get that when he say you don't burn strange fire. He said, don't burn no notes that I don't fool with. Again, when we look at our Elohim, his scent notes are woody aromatics. That's what he uses. Woody aromatics. And I think Elohim, because I ain't even sat back and thought about it. I say the vast majority of fragrances that I possess, overwhelming majority of them are woody aromatics. So if some of you have woody aromatic scents, let me see if I can see some of y'all brothers can mention that that's what you own. So you could get a somewhat of an idea of what that can smell like. Because it's considered to be earthy and woody. And remember what Isaac said about Jacob when he thought that was Esau. He said, you smell like the earth which Yahuwah has blessed. So it would only make sense that the compounds that he would use would be familiar to that. Like I have oud wood, and oud wood is something that is a woody aromatic. It's got oud, which again is a tree, amber, vanilla, which is a tree, which most of us don't even sit back and consider. But that's what it is. It gives off a different type of scent. And again, it's always going to be based off of those woody aromatic scents are always going to have spices and trees. That's what it's always going to be mixed with. And when you sit back and you look at it, and again, like I said, it's only right that Yahuwah would do this. I'm trying to find one that's familiar for most people that are not into fragrances, and they're just not giving me anything in that regard. Let's keep mentioning that. I already mentioned that. Well, they got Calvin Klein, Aqua Eternity. Maybe some of you are familiar with that. I don't think anyone's familiar with English Leather, because that sounds like that's an old man's perfume. Nevertheless, so take on your own research. So look at it and see what to say. Now, I do have this one here. Terry de Hermes. And you got woodiness and spices put together, like vetiver and pepper and cedar and all of these things. But these are things that are of the earth. So it only makes sense that Yahuwah would use things and things of that would be burned and offered to him that would be representative of his creation. When you look at Yahusha, and he was placed upon the stake, and he was dust and ashes, meaning that he was dirt made from the ground, set on fire, if you would, by the furnace of affliction on a tree or a wood. Of course, he was anointed, so therefore he would be that aromatic to give off that sweet smelling savor that Yahuwah desires, because it would smell like the earth that Yahuwah has blessed, as Isaac put it. So hallelujah for Yahusha the word. I appreciate y'all time. I know I went on something in that regard. I wasn't trying to plug one of these people products. I was just trying to use that as a real life example that you could look at and maybe quantify to really get an idea of what those scents smelled like in regard to what Yahuwah specified that he wanted to be used in ointments and perfumes that were dedicated to him. You know what I'm saying? Trees and spices. Trees and spices. You know what I'm saying? Praise Elohim. At the end of the day, it's because why you look at it, why would it be sweet? Because of the spices. It's going to savor because of the complexity of the woods or the trees that are used when you light those trees on fire, and the odors and the scents that they get off from the resin and the gum that's contained in the bark. You know what I'm saying? And it's a beautiful combination and mix. You know what I'm saying? And if you know fragrances and you see the notes that are used, it gives off an air of regalness, of royalty, of what a king and a ruler ought to smell like. You know what I'm saying? And there's things of that. I say I know a lot of people ain't into that, but there are certain fragrance notes and breakdowns that give off a particular scent where somebody will smell that and say that's somebody who's important. And also those notes are bold that grab your attention, as they should, because the odor of Elohim should grab your attention. When you let forth that sweet smelling savor, so let me read you something right here, right? In Genesis 27. It grabs the attention. When you look at what Jacob did, that grabbed Isaac's attention. We say he fetched that savory meat which his father loved. And he said, you know, I've done according to what you asked. And he said, you know what? You say he brought him that venison that my soul might bless him. And in verse 27, he said he smelled of his raiment and blessed him, and say, see, the smell of my son is the smell of the field which Yahuwah have blessed. And when you sit back and you look at those trees and those spices, they all come from plants and trees, and that's from the field that Yahuwah have blessed. Just one of the reasons why you see the fig tree parable and things of that nature, because these are things that have seed that sprout up and bring forth fruit, which in that regard will bring forth a sweet smelling savor, because this is the field that Yahuwah have blessed. Of course, you know that's the field that Yahuwah have blessed because he brought Yahusha from the grave. But again, we'll save all of that, Yah willing, on tomorrow. Again, blessings out of the house of Elohim in the name of Yahusha. I appreciate y'all. Prayerfully, you understood all things. And again, if you on here and you want to holler at me directly, you let me know. And I give you my information. You can holler at me if you will. Matter of fact, I'll just do this right here. And you ain't got to do it. And you can make the call. You can decide what you want to do. This ain't no random thing. We want everybody to feel comfortable enough to know that you're not out here rolling solo, dolo. Because I know I don't remember my name, and I'm not going to do it now. So you'll find that out if you desire to actually speak to me directly. You know what I'm saying? We're concerned with, and everybody who's actually here in person, is the betterment and the furtherance of the spiritual elevation and salvation of each and every individual that comes around this corner. We're not saying that we the end all be all, but we can get y'all for what you need, and y'all willing to get you where you desire to go. So again, blessings out the house of Elohim in the name of Yahushua. Appreciate your time. You who are willing, we'll pick it up on tomorrow and do it again. And until that time, bid you adieu.